So does this ever happen to you where you sit down at breakfast and take your first bite and you think, man, I want to reread that Noam Chomsky interview from last week? Um, I would have been less surprised if a unicorn had walked through the kitchen. But there it is. That's what happened to me. Noam Chomsky, in case you haven't run across him before, is a linguist, political philosopher. And the thing that's interesting that got my click was that he wrote his first essay on fascism, the expansion of fascism across Europe in February 1939, 83 years ago, when Barcelona fell to Franco's fascists. And he gave an interview last week. I'll put the link below if you want to read it. And then, so the other question, I don't know how your experience has been with the anarchists in your life. Honestly, mine hasn't been that great. I've tended to encounter young men who just sort of give off an aura of sort of a cake of narcissism with a glaze of misogyny. Yeah, maybe I just ran into the wrong anarchists. But whatever the case may be, the interviewer in this interview with Noam Chomsky starts out by saying, "You used to call yourself an anarchist, still call yourself an anarchist." So he starts out by saying every word that you use to describe a political stance is defined by the person using the word. So I've got relatives in the U.S. who say socialism as if it's a poisonous word that they need to get out of their mouth. It evokes to them the Soviet Union. And to a lot of Canadians, socialism means you can go to the hospital without your wallet and get great care. So all these terms are defined by users. Chomsky says that in the case of anarchism, the idea is that any form of hierarchy, dominion, authority, whatever it may be, in any aspect of life, from the family to international affairs, in any such relationship, has to justify itself. It's not self-justifying. There's not a word in there that I don't agree with. And then bizarrely, there might not be a word in there that these guys don't agree with. And there might not be a word in there that these guys don't agree with. So Chomsky goes on to give an example. He says, if a community decides democratically that they want to have traffic rules, drive on the right side of the road, stop at a red light, I think they're subjecting themselves to authority. But I think you can argue that it's legitimate authority. So anarchy as the idea of questioning authority, as opposed to anarchy as the idea of rejecting authority, which I think has been more my experience. So just backing away for a second, I love it when you use a word for half a century and then you suddenly understand the root of it, and it's never occurred to you before. Anarchy, so archy is a Latin word for ruler, and it's the year 2022. Even the Queen, you love her or hate her. Why is she Her Royal Highness and you're not? Well, because her ancestors romped around the British Isles and took everybody else's stuff by force. So that's the basis of that authority. I don't think I'm alone in not being super stoked about rulers. And so if anarchy is just not having rulers, does that make me an anarchist? Maybe so. And of course, archy shows up in other contexts too. Like, another thing I love to hate on is patriarchy. So the root of patriarchy is the father is ruler. Something we're trying to get past. Hierarchy. Who likes a hierarchy? I mean, sometimes you need a little bit of order in life, but all else being equal, you'd rather that we were all kind of equal. So a thing that I really like about my newly discovered status as an anarchist is that when you step back and think about it, it gives me this incredible point of overlap with these folks, because when they're talking about freedom, they're talking about not wanting to be under coercive control of others. And even these folks who see themselves as having their freedom, however they define it, encroached upon. And so really, we all have this incredible foundation of commonality, and the conflicts between us are about where we draw the lines. What constitutes, is a traffic light something that we can all get together and agree on as a reasonable form of coercion, or is being asked to do this, is that an unacceptable form of coercion? So another perspective that came up for me thinking about the truck protests in Canada this week is this perspective. This is an image taken on the steps of the courthouse in my little town. And the face that's been worked into that image is that of Bonnie Henry, a gentle, thoughtful, caring person who's our provincial health officer and has just done an amazing job of getting us through the last couple of years with much less illness than a lot of other jurisdictions. And so here someone is, they're putting her in the outfit that the Nazis used for their victims before they killed them. But basically they're saying Bonnie Henry is a Nazi doctor. So what's that about? Because we started out from this common footing. Freedom, absolutely, all for it. I hate being at the bottom of a hierarchy. I don't want to be told what to do either. So how do we get to here? And so that's this layer of empathy. We lost someone really close to us a couple of weeks ago in this pandemic, because of this pandemic. And as we were dealing with that, the day after the cremation, the truckers spent an hour driving past our workplace with their supporters jubilantly shouting how great it was to diss Bonnie Henry's advice, to behave in ways that tore a piece out of my heart. Why are they doing that? We agree. Chomsky may have convinced me that I'm an anarchist, but the thing that I think I don't see in that interview, and that sticks with me at the end of thinking about that interview and my newfound status as an anarchist, is the discussion of empathy. The discussion flounders when we can't think about the fact that we're driving up a street shouting. And when you just look at the numbers of people who've died over the last couple of years, you know that as you drive past that street, the people behind the windows as you go by have lost people they love. And that's where the truck protests simply aren't going to get where they're hoping to get. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about whether you question power relationships. It's how you go about it. And even though you have this common ground between these people and me, if we don't treat each other with empathy, we just wind up with this crap. Hasta mañana.